Welcome to a special edition of the SprintCarUnlimited.com podcast. I guess this is. I'm Jeremy Elliott, joined by Corey Kneeshaw, who, if anybody who listened to our podcast before, he's usually on for the Knoxville Nationals. We break down his Knoxville Nationals pool, but it is the Chili Bowl. And Corey, first off, I want to thank you for joining us. We're going to do a 30 minutes on the first 3 days, 30 minutes on the last 3 days. It's going to be on free on our YouTube page. And Corey, first off, I can't believe I'm doing a damn Chili Bowl thing with you because we all know how I feel about midgets. And yet, here I am. So this tells me that I like gambling more than I don't like midgets. And I might have a
Nothing wrong with
problem.
that.
And I
Nothing
might have
wrong
a
with that.
problem. I might have a
Yeah.
problem.
Eh, you know, at some point, we all kind of do. But you know what? This is it's a great week, and you get a lot of people who that they'll do the Chili Bowl pool because it's the thing to do, but they won't do another pool for the rest of the year, and that's fine. But it just adds kind of so much more to this week, especially with it being in January. Nothing else is really going on other
Yep.
than over in Australia. So I'm glad to be on with you right now, and I think this is I think it's great that you're going to partake in the Chili Bowl pool this year.
Of course I would. It's gambling. I was in last year's pool. I didn't do well, but I digress.
You and me both.
There's also 50 over 50 sprint car drivers in this thing. So I
Correct. There
have
is.
to pay attention now.
Yes.
You forced me.
And it's nice to be able to see that many drivers who are, coming, going to be doing it. That, guys who normally have a wing on, they're taking the wings off. They're driving a midget, and Brad Sweet's coming back this year, and it's interesting. He's didn't think he would be coming back to do it again, but RMS gave him a call and said, "Hey, we'd like you to come drive the." Justin Grant left their team and said, "We'd like you to drive one of the cars." And so here we are. Brad Sweet's back in the midget again for the Chili Bowl.
As is Kyle Larson and Christopher Bell, which I'm sure we'll get to that. But no, this is a big event. I recognize I might not be the biggest midget fan during the season, but I do recognize that the Chili Bowl is huge. So we're going to jump right in. We're going to try and keep it to a half hour for the first 3 nights, a half hour for the second 3 nights. We will release the second segment a little later. So don't forget to check it out on our YouTube page. So Monday night is when this all gets started, and we have our favorites, or who you consider the favorites, and who I might consider the favorites. Kyle Larson, obviously at the top of the list. He's a two-time winner of this event. You have Cannon McIntosh. He has 3 top 5s in the A main. You have Shane Golobic, who's interesting because he's made the A main 11 times.
Yeah.
His
Never
highest
won,
finishes are fourth and sixth.
never, but has never won a prelim night though.
Yes,
You know,
yes.
he's locked in back when it used to be three, when it was less nights and it was three lock-ins. But then the last couple of years when they've gone, down to the two because they've added the Monday night now, he's still locked in. He took second last year to Tanner Carrick in there. And yeah, he's so Shane and Chili Bowl, just he's right up there. But he just hasn't got over that hump to winning a prelim night.
Correct. Another favorite on Monday is Tanner Carrick. He has a fifth and a seventh in the A main. I was a little curious, when we were talking favorites, you put Brent Cruz in there, and I really didn't understand that because, I mean, he was 24th in 2023, but I just didn't see the numbers to be a favorite. I thought maybe you were being kind and wanted a fifth one.
No, Brent Cruz to me, I think he's the next big thing. I think he's, the next Larson,
Okay.
next Bell. He has so much talent. Last year was his first year there. He was 15 years old at the time. He was driving for Paul May, and I going into it, I didn't think the equipment was great. And Brent Cruz on his prelim night went third. So I think for prelim night, and that's what all these favorites are. They're for the prelim night. They're not for Saturday night. They're just kind of for the
Correct.
pre. I think he belongs in that category with how good he was last year. What he did at the Tulsa Shootout last week, winning another driller out there. He's so diversified in what he's doing right now in racing. I really think he is the next big thing that's coming up in the racing ranks right now.
Okay, we have our second tier guys, and one guy I was hoping to make him a sleeper, but I don't think he's a sleeper anymore, and that's Briggs Danner. He's been
Correct.
good on the USAC national stage. He made the A main, I believe, last year and finished 16th.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, was it his rookie season?
No, he'd been there before because he'd been there in one of the old Hefner rides. I
That's
think
right.
Hefner
Yes.
and Michael ride back when they had that going on. So no, he's been there before, but this is the best equipment he has ever been in. The Alex Bowman racing equipment is
Yes.
top notch, and for that fact right there, I couldn't put him in the sleeper. He actually got bumped up in groups this year. He's in G2 for Monday night. He's not up in that first group. He is, I think, kind of at the top of that second tier list for me.
Another guy that I thought was interesting in your tier two was Joe B. Miller. He's made the A main twice. He always seems to be floating around that B main on Saturday night and then possibly flirting with the A main. On his qualifying night, might be a guy people want to look at.
Exactly. And you talk about somebody who has an awful lot of laps at the Tulsa Expo Center. It's Joby Miller. He's done it in the shootout, but he's also done it. He made the A main last year, Saturday night A main, and he's done it in the midget as well. And I think that when you can do that in both, and you just have that many amount of laps in there, it goes to say something. I definitely looking for a top 10 finish for him on Monday night.
Now there's two other guys on there, and one of them's Trevor Klein, has not made the A main yet. As far as the main A main, when we say that, that's the
Yep.
Saturday night A main. And Zach Weigel, who's in a Chad boat car, and I'm assuming that's why you have him in that second tier for Monday night.
It is. Weigel is another one of these young kids who's coming up, and he spent this past season driving for Chad Boat on the uh, in the national series. And so, anytime I feel that you have a Chad Boat car at at Chili Bowl, um, it's going to be a good car, top quality. Chad knows what he's doing. He's got, Chris Wyndham. We'll talk later on Friday with Justin Grant now coming over there.
Yep.
He's got a lot of experience in that camp that can help him. And I think that with that, I think that's more of why I put Weigel. Weigel's stats may not prove it, but I think the equipment that he's going to be in is a reason why he's in that second tier. Trevor Klein, he's somebody who he's another youngster, 15, 16-year-old kid out of North Carolina, got a lot of laps at Millbridge, was really impressed with him last year, not only in the Tulsa shootout, but I was also very impressed with what he did in his preliminary night last year. He was able to make, I believe, the B main of it, B or C main of it last year for Saturday. And when you're doing that in your rookie year, that's pretty impressive to me. There is a lot of guys who've been there who haven't even never made the B or C main on Saturday night. So I think with him being another year older, if he comes in top five on Monday night, I'm not going to be surprised at all.
So we're going to shift to the sleepers because anytime you have a pool, this is where the bread's buttered, so to speak. I mean, look, everybody's going to take Larson on that Monday night.
Maybe not. No, because it's different this year because I've got I
You
have golden
split it.
drivers. I've got the golden drivers. So I got
Yep.
two groups of golden drivers. Group one is Larson, Bell, and Seavey. You can only pick one of them. And then group two is Kofoid,
Of
Grant,
course it is.
and Thorson. And the reason why I do that is because, like you just said, if I put Larson on Monday night, almost everybody's going to pick him. If I
Right.
put CV on Friday night, almost everybody's going to pick CV on Friday, and everybody's going to pick Bell on Thursday night. So, hey, let's make them their own group. Now it's a lot tougher. And the same thing with Kofoid, Grant, and Thorson. Those guys would absolutely they would just dominate their nights if they that they're at, and so make the two groups. It's much more from what I've seen from the numbers right now. Nobody's dominating any of the groups, right? Any of those golden driver groups.
No, especially with Bell and Larson putting on a show at the Tulsa Shootout, you're going to have a split right there. But I get that with Logan Seavey being, a two-time winner, a two-time defending champion. Kevin Swindell's car is always good there. So I think it's good to break those two out, and then you get into your Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday groups. Also, if you want to get in Corey Neeshaw's Chili Bowl Nationals pool, it's a great time. It's only $30. Go to my Twitter page. I have a link to it. He also has it on. Give your Twitter page.
So at Corey Kneeshaw is also is my Twitter. I also I've kind of partnered with somebody this year. His name is Blade Kearns, and he does a Chili Bowl cheat sheet, and he does all previous results of it. If you're interested and you want to take a look at something for the pool, you want a cheat sheet, give him a look. His email is Blade BLADE Kearns KEARNS 69 at gmail.com. Send him an email and he'll hook you right up with stats and everything. Little price with it, but that's, you guys can talk that over with Blade. So I wanted to get that out there as well.
Okay, sleepers for Monday night. Ashton Torgerson is a guy that you're looking at. Hasn't made the A-main, but he's made some noise. Corbin Rauschenberg.
Rauschenberg,
yep. Rauschenberg, yes. Trey Marcham is the one that stood out to me because he was 8th in the 2023 A-main on Saturday night. He's a guy that I'm watching. And, of course, Roger Crockett. What made you go with those guys? I mean, Trey Marcham's the obvious one.
But he's the local from Oklahoma right there. He's got another one's got a lot of laps. He's had some good runs there in the past, but also has had some horrible heartbreaks in the past. I think there was one a couple of years ago. He was leading his prelim A main, and somebody dumped him. Somebody crashed into him and took him out.
Of course they did.
Took him out of a transfer spot. Would have been a lock-in spot. But the last couple of years, he hasn't been racing midgets as much. So that's kind of why I put him kind of more in the sleeper range. Good value, and I think in that Group 3 range. Roger Crockett has gotten better year after year that he's been there. He's in a Johnny Herrera midget. And first it started with just Roger, but now that I believe it's a 3 or 4 car race team. Jace Park is also a part of that with Johnny Herrera, that operation. And I just feel he's somebody who's really gotten better and better. So if you're really looking for a good, darker sleep horse pick, I feel Crockett is one of them. Rauschenberg is a young kid out of Arizona, did a lot of sprint car racing in the West Coast this year, drove for the Tyner Hurst car out in the 360 ranks, was there last year. I kind of classify him a lot with like the Trevor Klein, but I feel Klein has progressed a little bit more in the midget right now, but Klein has he's more specialized in the midgets, where Rauschenberg has more switched towards the 360s now. And then Ashton Torgerson, he's in a KKM car. And so I think anybody who's in a KKM car, exactly, enough said right there. Yeah, and he had a really good year in the Extreme Outlaw Extreme Outlaw Midget Series this year, driving in the Keith Kunz car.
So we're going to shift to Tuesday. And again, guys, check out Corey Kneeshaw on Twitter. You get a link to the pool. Check it out. You got to pick each night. He has everything, the field divided into groups with who's running each night. Has his 2 golden driller categories at the top. So here we go. Tuesday night. My favorite, Buddy Kofoid. What can you say? Third and fourth.
He needs to do it on Saturday. That's what you can say. He needs to do it on Saturday.
3rd and 4th, though, 2 of the last 3 years in the A-main. I'm good with it. T-Mez, he's a 10-time guy in the A-main. He makes it in the A-main. His highest finish, though, I think is 5th, I believe.
Yes.
Last year. And then you have an interest, or actually, I think, no, his highest finish is 8th. T-Mez's highest finish is 8th. The next guy is the interesting favorite. Hank Davis was 5th last year. I like this guy a lot. I think he's qualified for the A-main twice.
Yep.
twice if I'm
He's in
not.
he's in a really good car in the Seymour car for midgets. He's been in there. I think this is his third or fourth year in it. He teammates with Tim Buckwalter, who we'll get to later on.
Yep.
Those cars have been they've been rocket ships. And Hank Davis, Oklahoma boy, came up through the micro ranks there and really, 2 3 years ago really just he put on a performance there, and then last year winning the prelim night and holding off some really good guys there, locking it in there. So I'm looking for him to do it again. He's gotten so much better as a driver, going out on the road this year with the 2C team and finishing off the season for the ASCS and winning. He won some wing 360 races out
Yeah.
there this year,
Look
and
good.
he's and then he's teaming up next year with Shannon Wheatley for doing more sprint car racing. So he's really diversified himself. And I firmly believe with his performance, he definitely belongs up in that top tier.
Hank Davis is a guy that I've been kind of watching over the last year in sprint cars. So I'm anxious to see him again at the Chili Bowl. I admittedly did maybe watch a little of it last year. Don't tell anyone. But look, it's racing. What are you going to do? But I
Exactly.
really like Hank Davis. I like what I see from him, and I'm anxious to see him in the Wheatley car this year. Now we're going to go to our second tier. We only had three favorites that night. Brad Sweet, you mentioned he's back, RMS. He's a six-time A main guy, and he's been in the top 10 every time he's made the A main. And again, Saturday's A main. So Brad Sweet on Tuesday night, not a bad pick at all. I'm curious why you didn't put him in that favorite category.
I just think the time off of being in a midget, um, after you got to look after. I think Buddy is by far head and clear
Sure.
shoulder the favorite for Tuesday night. I really think he is. Um, Second, I would think it would be Hank Davis. Timez has had for like you said, Timez has had some great runs on preliminary nights. Not so much when it translates to Saturday night. I mean, he makes it, but he's never finished in the top five. Where I'm just not sure with Brad not being there for the last couple of years, said he wasn't going to come back, but then he did come back. You know, where is Brad mentally with everything? Had the trip over to Australia. Kyle's used to doing this. That's not,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
is Brad really, Brad's a great driver. He's not a midget specialist, doesn't claim to be one, does this once a year, where other guys, I feel they've been in micros or they've been in the midgets a lot longer and they more success with it. Buddy's done with his racing season. What does he do? He jumps into a Keith Coons car out in California and then just came back from New Zealand where he won more races down in New Zealand, and so I think the top tier guys, the guys that I have as the favorites, they're more apt at being in a micro, a midget longer.
That makes this second tier on Tuesday, or our second tier Tuesday, pretty deep because we mentioned Sweet. Zach Dom is an 8-time A main guy, hasn't made it since 2020, though. Jonathan Beeson, he's made it, I think, 7 times. I mean, then you have KTJ, Kevin Thomas Jr., he's a 3-time Saturday A main guy. This is a very deep second tier.
It is, and I think um, when going through and making the groups, Tuesday was outside of Buddy top. When you take group one and group two, those were very hard for me to be able to handicap and be able to put in because I could have made claims for 7 or 8 guys who could have been up in G1, but I only could put 3, and then the rest I'm putting in G2. A lot of really good drivers that you just named off, KTJ being one of them. You know, uh, who else did you say was in that second
Jonathan
tier group?
Beeson, who's a
Oh
guy,
yeah,
Is a
Jonathan
guy I
Beeson.
like.
Who Jonathan Beeson in previous pools for me at Chili Bowl, he was a G1, and having to drop him down to a G2. Some say, well, they'll ask, well, why did you have Brad Sweet, in a G1? I feel sometimes when I do when I'm making these, I'm looking kind of at the big picture of it. If I put Brad Sweet into G2, I think Brad Sweet dominates that just by name alone because of he's Brad Sweet.
And when you
I
say
put
that, you mean selecting, people selecting them.
correct people selecting him. Chili Bowl pool, you get a lot of people who you know aren't they don't do the pools often like we do. They may do it once, twice a year. They see Brad Sweet's name in G2, they're gonna, oh well, I'm taking him. I put Brad Sweet in G1 with Timez and with Hank Davis. I think it's going to be more balanced, and I with that one I really went with kind of more balanced than anything, trying to make sure G1 and G2 were as balanced as possible.
So now we're going to move over to our sleepers for Tuesday night. Interesting group here. Only one of the four guys we have in our sleepers has made Saturday's A main. That's Cameron Key. He finished 22nd last year. But Clinton Boyles is interesting. Everybody knows what happened at Tulsa Shootout by now. You have Jake Buback, TJ Smith, and of course, as I mentioned, Cameron Key. Why these guys? Why are these guys in your sleepers section?
Because I think these guys for Tuesday night, I think these guys all have a potential with what we've already talked about with the previous 7 or 8 guys. I think these guys, if they get into the top 10, I'm not going to be surprised at all. TJ Smith is in the hardcore 60, the 68 hard racing car. He's had some good success there in previous cars. He's had some success there in the micros as well. Try not to put too much stock in micros and midgets because they are different. But when guys have laps there at a certain track, they understand the lay of the land of it. I do kind of give them credence with that. Also, Jake Bubak, another underrated driver, great 305 driver out in the Midwest,
Yep.
has done some good 360 racing. You go back and you look at some of his prelim nights over the last couple of years, he's been consistently a top 10 guy in his prelim nights. And that's why, to me, he's a big sleeper. Cameron Key, he's teammates with Brady Bacon on, there, and they bring good stuff there. And like you said, he made the A main last year, finished 22nd, didn't have as great of an A main, but, he's another driver that honestly, am I going to be surprised if he top fives it on Tuesday night? Absolutely not. He's a good driver, and he's going, full time wing racing this year with the Beaver 12 team.
Yep.
So it's just, so it's things that I look for, and Clinton Boyles really impressed me with the Tulsa shootout, not with what happened with him and Davis and Persley, but
He was in
you get him
contention.
good equipment, and look what he did. Exactly, he was in contention.
Yep.
He was in contention in every single class that he was in, and this is a guy who doesn't drive all that often. So I feel he was perfect to be a sleeper pick right there.
Cameron Key last year, if you can remember, what group was he in and what group's he in this year on Tuesday night?
I believe he's in group 3 for. I can pull that up.
And I think people need to understand if you get a group 3 guy in the top 5, that's major points.
Yeah, he's a group 3 guy, and I think he was either group 3 or group 4 last year.
It,
So
those are guys those are the gems. That's how you
yeah,
move up the Chili Bowl standings. So
yes.
that's why when we say sleepers. So we're going to move on to Wednesday.
Well, real quickly, one person who's in G2 that we didn't mention, and I purposely left him off of either tier 2 or sleepers, is RTJ because of what I have him there, and I went long and I went back and forth. Do I put him in G2? Do I drop him down to G3, or do I put him at G4? Because he's got a dilemma come Saturday night, depending
Yes.
upon what happens. And because he's going to be at Golden Isle with the late model for the Lucas Oil Series, and it all depends upon, so that not knowing what's going to happen with him for Saturday night, I didn't know where to quite put him, but he's one of, if I put him in a lower group, I think he's going to dominate in the selection of the lower groups. So I just left him in group 2 and let people are going to have to make their own choice with that. You're going to have to weigh that in there, whether it's a risk reward. He's definitely a risk reward there.
Well, and people need to know that the guys you pick throughout the week, You have them Saturday night. So
Correct.
that's the key for that. So we're going to move
Yes.
on to Wednesday real quick, and then we'll
Yep.
get out of our first segment. Uh, Everybody's favorite on Wednesday, Corey Day.
Yes.
Last year, he finished third. Uh, we all know how exciting he is. I think he's definitely a guy to watch on Wednesday night. Emerson Axum is one of our favorites, fifth and 11th the last couple years. He's made the A main twice. Dason Pursley, also in the top five last year. He was fourth. Those are the three favorites. Tell us about him.
And Days and Pursley did the soup run last year from the
Yes.
D, the C, the B to the A main. That was impressive. Another Chad Boat car right there. Won the USAC National Midget Series this year. Just kind of, dominated in a way in the USAC series. Up until last year, really hadn't had the success. Even when he was in a KKM car, hadn't quite had the success that he had last year. So kind of really looking forward to seeing with that one. Corey Day, he was right on. He was in that group for that second Golden Drivers group that I settled on Grant, but Corey Day was in that one. Cannon McIntosh was also in that one. I felt if I took Corey Day out of Wednesday night, I really didn't know who else I was going to put in for G1 there. And I feel I got the best three for Wednesday night with Day, Axon, and Pursley. Corey Day won his prelim last year. Didn't have as great of didn't have a great showing in the Saturday night A main. And Saturday night A main stuff, you're getting the best of the best all week long. This is what it is, the best of the best. Emerson Axum, once again, he's in a KKM car. And if you know anything about the Chili Bowl and KKM cars, they just perform there. And am I going to be surprised if Emerson Axum wins the prelim night Friday on Wednesday night? Absolutely not. I think Corey Day is the favorite going in, and he had another good performance out on the West Coast swing in driving for Willie Kane in that car. The motor's a little old. I think it's 20 plus years old, but they showed last year. Look at what it did. You know, um, I think that's some of the best racing from those three guys that we could see all week long. Is that Wednesday night in that from Group One?
Well, I'm a Dason personally guy. I just think something's clicked over the last couple years. Even in a 410 sprint car, we're going to see him in the boot car this year.
Yep.
So I expect a good Chili Bowl. Your second tier, there's only three there as well. And the first guy, I think in past years, you would consider him a sleeper. Colby Copeland always seems to run well at the Chili Bowl. He's made the Saturday A main 6 times. Now, his highest finish is only 13th, I think. But, I mean, he always seems to get in something on Saturday night, but he gets there.
And last year was the first year, and I believe 4 years, he didn't lock it in on his
Right.
prelim night. He came through the B. That's why I have him not as a sleeper. He's a second tier choice because Colby Copeland driving for Matt Wood Racing. Matt Wood, Shane Golovic, they bring good cars.
Yep.
They do. They bring top notch equipment. You're getting the best. Colby Copeland is a driver. Wouldn't necessarily classify him as a midget racer, but something when he gets to Chili Bowl, it clicks
It
because
works.
he finds a way and he locks himself in there. So that's why I have him. Did not think about putting him in that top tier. I think the top tier is set, but he's definitely at the top of that second tier.
You mentioned Timmy Buckwalter earlier, and again,
Yep.
a guy who in the past we would consider a sleeper, but because of his performance, he gets bumped up the list. He's second tier, 22 and 23. Makes the main. He was 10th last year. He's just a guy who hangs around.
Yep, and absolutely is. And he's had good runs on preliminary nights. He's locked them in. He's also come through the B. He's in the Seymour car along with Hank Davis. We talked about him earlier. Those cars, they have an understanding of what that track's going to do, and they prepare their cars the right way for that track for each for the nights that they race, and they're fast. And Timmy is a very diversified racer. He races, the big block modifieds. So he races some, micros. Every now and then he'll do some wing racing. We see him go down to Florida for the for the Florida swing, Ocala down there for the USAC non-wing national sprints when they're down there. He's very diversified. I like that. When it comes to Chili Bowl, I look for guys who are more. I look for more diversified drivers when I'm
Sure.
picking them. I
Versatility.
really do. Yes, exactly.
Jake Swanson is the last guy in that second tier. 10th, I believe he was 10th last year, or I believe he was 10th last year. I said Timmy was 10th last year. It was Jake Swanson. My bad. But Jake Swanson, um, when you have guys who performed 1 year, does that make it tough where to slide them in?
It does, because you have to look. Is it a 1 year wonder? You know, what happened with that last year? Were they consistently up there,
Right.
or did somebody break and they fluked into it? Would you say with Jake Swanson? I don't believe so. The another, he's an Alex Bowman racing car. Great cars, probably some of the prettiest cars that we're going to see all week at Chili Bowl. Um, but the thing with that is that they hadn't made it. Well, Jake did. Jake was able to get an Alex Bowman racing car into the Saturday night A main event. Jake's a great. Jake has really, over the last 5 years, really become a top tier, solid non-wing racing driver. He was with Team AZ in the USAC National Sprints for a number of years. Left that, went to do his own things, had a number of rides. This is, I believe, his third year, I believe, with Alex Bowman Racing at the Chili Bowl. And each year they've gotten better. And I don't see any reason why that shouldn't continue this next year,
We're
this
going to
next week.
wind up this video with the sleepers on Wednesday night. Alex Bright, I mean, he was fourth in 2014. He's made the A main 3 times. It's been a while since he's had a lot of success at the Chili Bowl, but I get why you have him there. Brandon Walty, Jeff Yantis, and Rylan Gray. Now, Walty, Jeff Yantis, and Rylan Gray, I think Walty made it in 2005. He made the Saturday A main, and I believe he finished 18th. Jeff Yantis and Rylan Gray have yet to make Saturday's A main. Give us a little rundown on those 4 guys.
Walty is a guy out in Wisconsin, usually runs the Badger Midget Series, which not isn't one of the better series, but they, he was really impressive last year when he made the C main event for Saturday night. Last year he was a Group 6 driver, I believe that he was in there, and he just he's won over the last 3 or 4 years, has gotten better each year. I go through and after the Chili Bowl ends each year, I go through and I do a deep dive of not only the points from that year, but I do the previous 2 3 years and kind of just get a good feeling of where guys are at. Are they going up? Are they going down? He's somebody who's been going up, so I feel for prelim night. He's somebody who he's a sleeper pick right there. Jet Yantis is a kid out of California, first year. He's 15 years old. So if this was a USAC race, he wouldn't be racing it. He's one of those that he had to get a waiver to be able to run it. Has run some really good micro racer,
Okay.
really good. But last year in California was able to run some midget races out there as well. And he's a gasser. He's nothing more than a true gasser, and so that's why he's a surprise pick. Rylan Gray is another kid that last year I probably didn't know much about him. Had him kind of slotted really low, I think Group 7 last year. But the numbers that he produced in there on not only his prelim night but also Saturday night, I had to bump him up, I believe, to Group 4 this year. So those are more, those 3 right there, those are kind of more your true sleeper picks, I feel, for their preliminary nights.
Well, Corey, I'm almost getting a little buzzed here. I'm almost feeling like, hey, I'm gonna watch this every night.
I think you are because you're in the
Yeah.
pool.
Well, look, again, check out Corey's Twitter page. Get a link to the pool. It's only $30. We wrapped up the first 3 nights. We'll be back with another video highlighting Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Stay tuned.